Good morning, gang. Good morning, good morning. Just going to copy the link into Teams for you. Light up, light up, light up the dog. Light up. You got it. Okay, so favorite lesson alert, NASA time. We're going to go for it this morning. Just going to get the lesson up on my phone, on my new Disney phone case. You've got to let love lead you. There is a YouTube video up on Red Roof School for the Year 11s, if you fancy checking it out, with the teachers making a fool of themselves. Perfect chance for revision, indeed. Hey, Brayden. Okay, so for the space race, I have put a clip that I'd like you to watch, please, just so that recaps the arms race for you. And then we are going to have a little look at the timeline of what was going on in terms of a space exploration, basically. Now, I will do it in the same colours as I did yesterday, with purple being the USA and red being the Soviet Union, just so you know what's going on and what happens. So, here we go. Let's start then. And you'll notice I'm starting with red. So we've got the arms race going on. So the H-bomb was developed in 1945 and dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945 to end the Second World War with Japan. This frightened Stalin an awful lot. So by 1953, no, lies, start again. By 1949, he has his own version of the A-bomb. This then frightens Truman, and Truman orders the development of the H-bomb. In 1953, they do test that H-bomb, and within a couple of months, the Soviet Union have then tested their own. It is then ordered by Truman once again in 1954, just kind of 1953 really, end 1953, early 54, that then Americans need to develop a bigger, better version of the H-bomb, also kind of dubbed H-bomb 2.0. So the Americans were winning the arms race. They had a lot more nuclear weapons than the Soviet Union, and they were a lot stronger in terms of their nuclear weapon development. Now, a lot of their money went into this development in their defense spending, and where the Soviet Union were having their cardboard cutouts of missiles to trick America, they were developing the space race element of the arms race competition. So the space race is a race in its own right. However, under your textbook and your course, the space race comes off as like a branch of the arms race. And the space race begins in 1957. So 1957, I believe it is October the 1st. I could be wrong. Could be really wrong. Oh, it's the 4th. It's because it's Sputnik 1. Let's move that so it's actually sort of semi-straight. Sputnik is launched. Now, Sputnik was a satellite. So like what we have got in the sky at the moment, it all developed from Sputnik. Sputnik was a really basic looking thing compared to what satellites we send up now, but it was very technologically advanced, clearly because it was the first of its kind. And this is what the artist's impression is of Sputnik, and it's widely accepted as what Sputnik actually looked like. Now, I am a Friends watcher. I'm a Friends lover. absolutely adore Friends. And if you've ever watched the Halloween episode, I think it's something like series 8 or series 9. I know that it was the first episode they filmed after 9/11. So it must have been about series 8. They have a Halloween party. Monica comes dressed as Catwoman. Phoebe super girl. Joey comes dressed as Chandler. Chandler's a big pink bunny. You're probably thinking, Miss, where are you going with this? Ross comes in dressed as a potato with a colander on his head with like antenna. And the joke is that he's Spudnik. So when you've previously not understood that joke, you do now. I will try and get it up at the end of the lesson for you, but Spudnik, great line. So Sputnik is launched. It is successful. It is able to orbit the Earth and give information to the Soviet Union about what is going on, really, by taking pictures, recording things, generally what a satellite does, measuring, kind of that thing. Oh my God, do the Americans panic? This sends them into complete meltdown. Now, they had their own kind of space agency, and it is not the one on my jumper. They had their own space agency called the NACA. This is a little bit detailed that you don't really need to know, which was the National Aeronautics. No, it was the National Advisory Committee of Aeronautics, I think. Such a loser. I did my dissertation on it. And it was just, they were sort of talking about space in theory. When Sputnik goes up, that commission becomes this bad boy, NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Woo, 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 woo! The stuff that we know today. And this has kind of become a fashion statement, although this is actually from NASA, actually from the Kennedy Space Center. All right. And NASA is then launched in 1957, days, I'm talking days after Sputnik launches. So we've got a satellite and now we've got a space agency. Things are already beginning to hot up. Now, on November the 3rd, 1957, so just a month later, the USSR send up Sputnik 2. I think I've spelled her name right, probably not. And they send it up with, I believe it's got some different technology. And the idea is then for Sputnik 2 to go up, and it's a tester for kind of sending people up into space. So it has a little dog called Laika on it. Now, I know people are going to say this, and as an animal lover, I feel really bad. But Laika was a stray dog in Moscow that the Russians found. And they took her off the streets, they fed her up, they made her really have a lovely few months of life. And then they put her in a spacesuit and they put her in Sputnik. Now, the problem with Sputnik 2 was they couldn't bring it down. They could launch it up there, they could get it up there into space, but they could not bring it down. So Laika did actually suffocate and die. Sad times. I do have a book in school all about Laika. So yeah, so they launched Laika. Now this puts America into absolute meltdown. Yeah, I'm talking meltdown. So they bash lots of money into it, and by the kind of the end of 1957, they launched their own version of Sputnik. Now, you are probably thinking, Miss, you have spelt that wrong. That says Futnik with 3 Fs. Futnik. Now, the reason it was nicknamed, it wasn't actually called Futnik. The reason it was nicknamed Futnik is because they gave the whole world to Kennedy to the Kennedy Space. I think it was Kennedy Space Center anyway. They gather the whole world around. The media's there. They've got Americans there being really patriotic, saying, "Yes, America, God love America. We're gonna launch our own space satellite." So there it is, all eyes on this satellite, and it launches up a little bit. It goes and lands on the ground and completely fails. And it's an absolute waste of time. Okay. And this then launches our space race. I'm not going to go in detail by detail of all the different timeline, because you do actually have that on your, that wasn't very good showing. You do have that on your worksheet, okay? Now, once they've got these satellites up and they are beginning to settle into the science and the technology of what space travel requires, both the USA and the USSR have a very set goal of they want to be the first person to send someone into space. They want to be the first country that sends someone into space. This is made more so when Kennedy is elected as president in 1960, but in 1961, on my sister's birthday, Esther, she's not up here now, but on my sister's birthday, on the 12th of April 1961, oh, I can never spell his name right. Yuri Gagarin becomes the first man in space. He is a cosmonaut, not an astronaut, because that is a Soviet word for an astronaut, effectively. And that he is then closely followed on May the 5th by Alan Shepard. Every flipping time. Now, I've got to be careful here because this is my dorky, geeky specialism. Is that actually Alan Shepard was the first man in space to orbit the Earth. And during this time, NASA were actually testing RAF pilots. I know it's not RAF, but that's the only way I can describe it. So the American version of the RAF pilots, that's what these people were. They were the Soviet and American air military fighters who were being sent up, and they would then get the best scores on these different tests. There was actually a lady that got better scores than Alan Shepard and John Glenn, who are two famous Americans, and she didn't get her findings published because she was a woman. A magazine did. So by then, 1961, they both have now got a man into space. And the race then becomes not to have a man in space, but to get a man on the moon. Now, I don't know how much you're aware of this, but last year was the 50-year anniversary . Now, I know there are a million conspiracy theories surrounding the moon landing. However, as historians, we are not obliged to delve into conspiracy theories. My tea has gone cold. Ugh, gone. We're not. You can go and see them for your own enjoyment if that's your sort of thing. If you're like a Shane Dawson kind of 2020 and you like a conspiracy theory, go ahead, be my guest, get yourself involved in terms of looking at the conspiracy theories. But when it comes to your Cold War course, do not mention them. Don't talk about JFK's assassination. Don't talk about the moon landings. Don't talk about the Cold War in general in terms of conspiracy theories. We are basing it on the facts that we know. And as far as it is, we are aware, Apollo 11 landed on the moon. And as a complete NASA fangirl, I will not hear otherwise. So then we've had that race from being the first man, which the Soviet Union win. And to be quite honest, the Soviet Union actually win the space race up until 1961. It's only in 1969, following the legacy of JFK, that the Apollo 11 mission lands on the moon with Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and the rest of the crew. Those are the two most famous ones. So what I'd like you to do then, please, is use that timeline and answer my 4 questions that I've put on the side, which you can't see, it's blown out. There we go. And I want some evidence. So use the evidence from the timeline. Go on. You can, from the timeline to support your answer, please. I've then got another clip for you. Then I want you to tell me who you thought won the space race and why. I may have just tackled that. And then if you are feeling a little bit like you want to push yourself, which all of you really should be doing, I want you to have a look at the 2 cartoons that I've put and tell me what do you think they imply about the space race, and send your answers back to me. So the space race doesn't cover a lot of your course. In fact, it is that tiny little bit there by Sputnik, but it is really important to know that the space race and the arms race combined really amp up the tension between the 2 superpowers. The superpowers use this as a way to get out their kind of competition, their frustration with one another, but it does spill over quite a few times, and we will look at those events. So Hungary is the one it spills over into, that competition to look the most powerful, the Cuban Missile Crisis. So it will all be, it all fits in that, although the arms race in terms of, it doesn't actually do anything in terms of like there's no big battle or whatever, the fact that they are arming themselves so they can destroy each other many times over, and the fact that they are feeling it's a competition to advanced technology, yes, speeds the world up, but also creates this massive tension and this undercurrent of bubbling of competition. And actually, if you've watched any game shows, like for example, like Love Island, like I'm trying to think of any other like TV reality shows that like Instant Influencer with James Charles, or Glow Up, or The Race Around the World, whatever, any reality TV show that has people competing, yes, you can be friendly with them, but there is that slight awkwardness of, oh, okay, I actually need to beat you to get what I want. And that is essentially what the space and arms race is. I think that's it for me today. On Monday, I will be doing a live lesson at, I think I've put either 11 or 10, I can't remember, I have said it for you already, on the Hungarian uprising. Either submit this through Teams or email. Otherwise, if you need anything, give me a shout. Have a good day. Enjoy the thunder that is more than likely coming. Bye.